Okay, so we're going to do a table for task 1. Please make sure you've watched my previous task 1 videos because I will be building on the things that I said in those. Specifically in this essay, I'm going to introduce a new type of noun phrase. Call it noun phrase 4. Alright, so what do we have here? The table below gives information about the amount of different materials in thousands of tons collected from households in Britain for recycling over a 4-year period. We have a table with 20 data points here plus another 4, and this will be an important row. So, what is step 1? Step 1 is select your noun phrases. And as you can see, I've added space for a 4th noun phrase. But let's do noun phrase 1 to 3 first. Can we see any? Look in the question, and what do we see over here? Here's where the noun phrase is. The amount of different materials in thousands of tons collected from households in Britain. Now, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but this can be written like this. Sometimes when they're trying to shorten a which clause like this, they leave it out. They do it in tables and in short questions and in titles because they're just trying to shorten it. But this is the actual way that this noun phrase should be written. So that tells us that this is noun phrase 3. But I'm not going to use materials. I'll just use one of these just as an example. Let's say glass. I say was over here because glass is uncountable. If this was countable plural, I would say were. So there's noun phrase 3. So if you want, pause the video. What can we see? What is noun phrase 1? Glass collection. Noun phrase 2. Great. So that's a good start. We found some nice noun phrases. This one follows our pattern. Not all of them, doesn't always happen, but this time it happens. It follows the pattern. Noun, noun, and that becomes the verb. So noun phrase 4 starts with a number or a percentage, and then of, and then a noun or noun phrase. So this is often very useful. And then with these 4, you don't need any other noun phrases for the subject of your sentence. Remember, this is all for the subject of your sentence. So that would be, in this example, let's just take an example. 311, what is the unit? Thousands of tons of what? Of glass, or of any one of these things. Right, and this often ends up being a very useful noun phrase. Often when we're dealing with age groups, it comes in very handy. Alright, step 2. What is step 2? Write your paraphrase. So I've just used that paraphrase. Go through it if you want. I don't want to spend too much time in paraphrase here. I've used some nice language there, and then I've done something slightly different. Just added that on at the end so that it doesn't end up too much in one sentence. You don't need to do that, but it's quite a nice thing to do if you can see the opportunity to do it. What is step 3? Write your overview. Right, now it's time to focus. What is our overview going to be? Of course, we're going to look at this for the overview. And this is the total amount of material that was collected for recycling. And now it's time for arrows. So what are arrows? I'll talk about circles and arrows in this tutorial. It applies to tables. Circles and arrows. You're going to draw arrows for if things went up or down, and you're going to put circles around the data we're going to use. So we'll do circles later. Let's look at our arrows. I'll show you what I mean. You should draw little arrows on your table. You're going to do it for all of these, but for now we're just doing it for the total, just to tell you whether it went up or down. So as you can see, this increased over the whole period shown. And that's enough for our overview. I'm going to add a little bit more, but let's just do that as a start. Overall, it can be seen that the total amount of material which was collected, so I used noun phrase 3 over there, increased every year over the period shown. Now that's enough. I'm going to add a little bit more. So when you get your band 6 overview, that's a band 6 overview, see if you can find a little bit more to say. If you can't, don't worry. You can still get band 7, 8, 9 with this overview. Don't worry. But just have a look for 30 seconds. And then a good idea is just to do arrows for the whole table so you can get a nice idea of what happened with these numbers. Remember, a table is just like a line chart but in a different form if they have years. Right, like that. So you're going to take a moment in your test to just say, did it go up, did it go down, did it stay the same? It gives you an idea of what happened here. So as we can see, this went up but it stayed the same. We're going to mention that. And this went up but then it went down. So for the overview, this to that, year 1 to year 4 was always up. Even this one that went down, it's still up over the whole 4 years. So I can say something about each category because they were all the same. So I would say collection of materials in all categories increased. It's just a little bit extra to add. You don't need to do it. All right, that's fine. Right, what's our next step? Step 4 is select your data. You see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 4. That's 20 numbers plus these 4 is 24. That's a lot of data points. 24 is too many. You cannot mention all of these. I usually aim for something like 12. 12 is a good number for data points. So it means we need to choose which ones we will put in our essay and which ones we will ignore. And that's where the circles come in. I want you to put circles around all of the data points that you think are important enough to include in the essay. Alright, so you're going to put a circle around important data points like that. So that's what I mean when I talk about circles and arrows when we're doing tables. I'm not going to circle everyone. It takes too long on Microsoft Word. I'm just going to highlight them like that. But you must put circles. Alright, so which ones will we select? Like with line charts, do the beginning and do the end. So that gives us 8. Now, what should we do about these? I think I'm actually going to put this in the overview. You can have another sentence in your body of your essay describing the total, but I think we can just get rid of these in the overview. So let's just add that quickly. Alright, so I've just added that in. You can write the word 1,000 or you can say these zeros, it's up to you. Right, so let's get back to our data points. We've got 8 now. Which other ones will we choose? I think we're going to choose that one because it's slightly different. You see, these are all the same, they increased. Then I'm going to choose that one because it went up to there and then it went down. So this is like a peak. And that's enough. Right, so that's step 4. Select your data points. What is step 5? Step 5 is simply you're going to decide what you're going to put in paragraph 1, what you're going to put in paragraph 2, and if maybe you will have a paragraph 3, and then get going and write the paragraphs. So I think I'm going to put all of these together because they all follow the same sort of pattern. And remember, try and make it easy for the examiner to follow what you're doing. This is very, very important. If possible, group those 3 and then group those 3. Then the examiner can follow. If you do that and then you do that and then you go back to paper and card, then you do compost, you're just making it difficult for the examiner to follow what you're saying, and that makes him angry. So I'm just going to do these 3, paragraph 1, those 2, paragraph 2. Right, we're ready to start. So we've got our paraphrase, we've got our nice overview. And what do we say? My phrase is looking at the first chart, looking at the first what? The first category. Remember the word category for tables, it's a lovely word. And many other task ones, category. Looking at the first category in more detail, it is clear that. And now we want our noun phrase. So which one should we choose? Let's just choose one, doesn't matter. Paper and card collection. Before I do that, let's see if we can see a most. We want to have some comparisons. Remember, we want a comma which. So for this, we want to say, which was the largest increase on the table? So which one increased the most? 600 to 900, 311 to 429, 279 to 900. That's big. 18 to 26, 6 to 8. All right, so compost increased the most. So there's our comma which. Great. We'll do that, remember, for compost. So we're back with paper and card from 600 to 973. Paper and card collection increased from 600,000 tons in year 1 to 973,000 tons in year 4. And that's all you need to do, really. I see so many students, they think, it's too simple. Keep it simple. Let's do noun phrase 2. Collection of glass increased from 311 to 429. Let's have a similarly. Please, you must have this. Don't just say 429. Examiners hate that. You must have the units and the correct amounts of units. All right, similarly, collection of glass increased from that to that. Very simple sentence. All right, so now we're going to do compost. And remember, compost, we are going to use our comma which. I was thinking of doing a noun phrase 4, but we can save it for later. So let's just do a noun phrase 3. The amount of compost which was collected. I won't say increased again, I'll say grew from 279,000 tons to 941,000 tons, which was the largest increase on the chart, on the table. On the table, in the table is fine. Anyway, so there we've got our comma which is lovely. Great. Turning to the remaining 2 data sets, it is evident that, all right, you've got that sort of language in your head, you've written it 100 times, you don't make any grammar mistakes with that, you've got some nice vocabulary. Really, it's important that you get these 100% right. Now, I want to use noun phrase 4. So, we're going to use a number, tons of cans. 18 tons of cans were collected. 18,000 tons. Great. So there we've used noun phrase 4. Very useful. Please notice I had to do passive over here. And then we can say, very often with noun phrase 4, you can say, this number increased to, or this number decreased to. That gives you a reference pronoun. Examiners like reference pronouns. This number increased to 26 in year 2, but then remained constant until year 4. Very nice. Remained constant, remained the same, remained unchanged. You can use any one of those. Remained constant and remained unchanged are the best. Please notice this. It stayed until year 4. Many students want to say in year 4. That's wrong. It stayed constant until year 4. Great. Then let's be a little bit friendly and say finally. Finally. And we want noun phrase 3, the amount of plastics which were collected, which was collected in year 1. We haven't done a stood at. Let's use stood at. You can say was, but stood at is nice to throw in somewhere. Stood at what? 6,000 tons in year 1. Another chance for this number, but let's say this figure increased to 13,000 tons in year 3, but then decreased 8,000 tons to 8,000 tons. You can say in year 4, but let's say at the end of the period shown. All right, very beautiful essay. How many words is that? I think quite a lot. 210. Yeah, it's a little bit too much, but I think with tables you'll often find that because there's lots of data points. And if you follow the 5 steps, you'll have a nice organization, nice structure, so you won't waste time. And then the last thing about this video was we introduced a new noun phrase, which is often very useful, especially in tables. Great, thank you very much.